me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free and to send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together.
3 minutes past 4, delighted to be welcome. This man's come all the way from Washington, D.C. just to be on my show this afternoon. Harry Cole, how are you?
Exactly that.
Oh,
worth the flight itself.
So much to talk about. Let's start with the impact of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You now base yourself in D.C. He is a figure who is revered or reviled in almost equal measure. I've said to you on numerous occasions how I crave to have a politician in this country with the cojones big enough to do what he says or she says they're going to do. This is his deal, isn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. I think just listen to the praise that Netanyahu was giving him. Every world leader is queuing up to make the point. You know, this is something that others have tried and failed to do. And Donald Trump's got a unique sort of blend of business, show business, and, you know, pure muscle. It's like a diplomatic force like no other, but it gets results. You know, there was sort of, you know, some sort of sneery questions last week at one of the White House press conferences saying, oh, is it appropriate that your son-in-law, who's got business dealings in the Middle East, is involved in trying to get peace in the Middle East? It's like, well, yes, he's trying to get peace in the Middle East because he's got a business dealings. And business and money talks in that region. And if everyone can get around the table to bring the Israelis, the Gulf states, and now Hamas to the table, it's remarkable.
It is remarkable.
No one else has been able to do it. And, you know, the hostages are out, and we must delight in that.
We just your show's on tonight, and I know you're going to talk about, like, there are cynics out there who will say, and I quote, oh, you know, the thing about it is it's not going to last. But the guy has put in place something that can make a massive difference. Now, you know me, I could sit and do this for 3 hours, but frankly, I would be as bored as the listeners. It is a monumental day. I read that comment, that message I had from my Jewish friend, and to everybody who's Jewish, who listens to talk, who knows where our loyalty is, and it's been a horrible time. I hope this is the beginning of a better time, life, whatever for you, and we appreciate your support and we'll continue to speak the truth. I, though, have to say, you've got Donald Trump, love him or loathe him, and you've got the United Kingdom Prime Minister. You just heard, ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the free world hailing the whole world coming together. This is Keir Starmer, also in the Middle East, sat with the Qatari leader earlier. Try and spot the difference.
See today hostages being released, see aid getting into Gaza is, I think, what the world has been longing for a very long time. And it's really important now that we press on to the implementation. All parties must play their part in the implementation. We owe that to Israelis and Palestinians to make sure that we build on today, move forward. We, the United Kingdom, stand ready to play our full part. In particular, we stand ready in relation to monitoring the ceasefire and decommissioning Hamas capability and weaponry.
Even the Qatari minister, or whatever he is, president, honestly, when you put the two together, you're a political powerhouse. There's just nothing about him, is there? I mean, there's been a big debate this weekend about how much the British government actually got involved.
There's a touch of John Terry and his shin pads.
So this is a great story. You've nicked my line. Oh, you've nicked my line. It's a great article in one of the Sunday papers that said, to be honest, Starmer's a bit like John Terry. Do you remember the Champions League final and John Terry was banned? So he was supposed to sit in the stands, and at the end, when they'd won Chelsea, he went down the tunnel and put on a full Chelsea kit and came up the tunnel and got the cup, and everybody went, but you didn't play. That's how I feel about Starmer.
I mean, if anything, you could make a case that actually Britain, France, Canada, and all the other sort of wishy-washy ones, and Benjamin Netanyahu made this point in his speech today, said just when the West was starting to turn on Israel and was getting, they recognised the Palestinian state without getting the hostages out and saying, oh, if you don't release the hostages, we will. I mean, it was nonsense. If anything, we hindered the talks. Marco Rubio has said, the US Secretary of State says, Britain's and France and Canada's actions hindered peace talks. And so he's up there saying, oh, look, we're here now. I'm not
going to let this go. And I want you lot to listen, and I want you to call on 0344 499 1000. Over the weekend, that odious woman, Bridget Phillipson, who's running to be the Deputy Leader, the Education Secretary, I think she's mad. She basically went on Trevor Phillips. You won't have seen this,
no,
will you?
I saw it.
And she basically said, we played a massive role, which was completely sort of at odds, because Starmer had been, it's all about Trump, 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 Trump. Have a listen to Bridget Phillipson, because this kicked off a right argument on Twitter. Have a listen to this.
We have played a key role behind the scenes in shaping this. It's right that we do so because it's in all of our interest, including our own national interest, that we move to a lasting peace in the region.
Well, when you say behind the scenes, like what? I mean, it seems to everybody else in the world that this has been done by Trump and the Israelis and Hamas. What part did we play?
These are complex matters of diplomacy that we are involved in, but we do welcome and recognise the critical role that the American government played in moving us to this point.
The critical role. Now, as a result of her, a gentleman called Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel...
America's ambassador to Israel, yeah.
He basically tweeted about 10 minutes after Bridget Delusional Phillipson went on. He said, I assure you, she's delusional. She can thank only out the real Donald Trump anytime just to set the record straight. So everybody jumped up and down. And then have you seen this tweet today from Steve Wickoff?
Yeah.
Today, on his government account, Special Envoy Steve Wickoff, this to me is like the government of number 10 have phoned up and gone, sorry, we're in a bit of a hole here. We don't know like we're used. He said, I would like to acknowledge the vital role of the UK in assisting and coordinating efforts that have led us to this historic day in Israel. In particular, I want to recognise the incredible input and tireless efforts of National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell.
Funny about Jonathan Powell's on the ropes on this China stuff, and he's got his mate. It feels
no mention of Starmer.
Yeah, no mention of Starmer, but also it's very interesting timing for Jonathan Powell, who's obviously has worked closely with Steve Wickoff. They are, Jonathan Powell does have a very key role to play in the Ukraine stuff as well. I think that does need to be noted. And yes, if anyone from number 10 was doing anything on the Middle East peace stuff, it was Powell. But look, I don't think you can escape. I always tend to believe the first message rather than the diplomatic mop-up of the second message.
Absolutely. So we think probably they think we've done absolutely nothing, which is another story about how utterly unimportant we are on the world stage.
But again, it cannot be stressed. It's not that you haven't done anything. We've actively made it worse.
Palestine.
And that is what Marco Rubio said. The Secretary of State, #1 diplomat in America, said Britain and France have made things worse. And that is shameful.
Love to know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Jodie is here to take your calls, and Ryan, WhatsApp, same number, and you can text 87222. Rachel, Starmer, why is he bloody well even there? All he succeeded doing is alienating one of our oldest allies and rewarding scumbag terrorists. Let's hope he stays there and doesn't come home. That's what a lot of people would think.
I just think you got the... It's just, yeah. I mean, you saw it in that clip with the Qatari guy.
We're a laughing stock, Harry.
To begin with, Starmer was beginning. When everything was going a bit rough for him and going a bit south from the beginning of his premiership, you couldn't get him off that plane. All he wanted to do was fly around the world, summit hopping and doing that side of it. That's slightly coming home to roost now. Because
so being in America, where you are now in DC, National Guard and all that.
Yeah.
What's the Americans' view of England now, the UK?
There's really there's two really separate things here. One, as soon as anyone hears my accent, they go, what the hell is happening in England? What's going on with trans? What's going on with free speech? What's going on with the rape gangs? And I think they got the free speech. Thing a little bit overblown, but on the grooming stuff, I think the more they hear about it, the more horror that this could even happen in this country. So they're fascinated by that. And then they've got the weird Starmer Trump loving. Trump is very private, publicly very supportive of Starmer in the run-up to that state visit with the King. When last time I was back, that's what we were talking about. He was on good behaviour. But there's a lot of people in the administration, in the wider sort of Republican circles of DC, who are just baffled by what it is that Trump sees in Starmer, because they see kind of what everyone else sees. So I wonder how long that uneasy peace between the two of them will last, because they are very, 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 very different people. One's a boring left-wing technocrat, one's a very pugnacious, active, passionate, Republican. So they're like the odd couple. But so far, Starmer's managed to keep them on board. How long that lasts, remains to be seen, especially when you've got days like today where Netanyahu and others are willingly and openly saying, you know, some people were on the right side of history of this one and some people weren't.
Meaning that we're not.
But very firmly puts America on the right side of history, and those that folded, those that abandoned Israel after pressure from, you know, from the UN and the charity sector and all the whiners on Twitter, we'll remember. We'll remember that one.
I think it's a day of embarrassment for the United Kingdom. I think it's a fantastic day for the Jewish community. A man who you would never, you know him very well. You interviewed him last week on your amazing programme, Harry Cole Saves the West, here tonight from 10 o'clock with a couple of special guests. Boris Johnson, have you read this in the last 10 minutes?
I've heard about it.
Boris, doing what Boris and only Boris can do, has called in the last 10 minutes on Twitter, X, whatever, he's called Starmer's help in the ceasefire talks is about as useful as a fart in a gale. I mean, that's vintage Boris, isn't it, really?
You miss that tenor phrase, especially as a journalist. You know, he writes in intros, isn't he? But like, look, he's not wrong, is he? Like, you know, there was Bridget Phillipson did not help herself.
No.
And learned diplomatically the hard way that you can't boast to.
Now, so the man sat in a tent or somewhere in wherever he is with the man from Qatar being laughed at, going, oh, we're here. I mean, I think it's a photo opportunity. Trump's saving the world. The Israelis are joyously accepting that the hostages have come home. Will Hamas, what will happen, blah, blah, blah. Back home, I want to talk to you about this because this government has a pretty big crisis to deal with, and it centres around the Chinese Spal trial collapse. We'll make it really, really simple. There were a couple of people accused of spying within the House of Commons. The CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, say we were ready to go, and this government went, oh no. Which is really ironic because, you know, Keir Starmer, a legal man, it's all about playing it by the book, was, of course, the Director of Public Prosecutions. But he came out at the weekend, Phillipson did it again. Have you seen what she said? She said it was their fault. This is Bridget Phillipson. She's like a mad attack dog. Have a go.
I can say today, to be absolutely clear, is that he was not involved in the substance of the case and discussions around that, or the evidence connected to the case. I can give you that reassurance. He did not have those conversations around the substance or the evidence of the case. These are matters for the relevant authorities, the Crown Prosecution Service, and they date back to 2023.
Oh, well, let's blame the Tories. I just thought the ex-director of public prosecutions, who doesn't even go for a wee without checking the legalities of it, would be absolutely... Yeah, he's slagging off the CPS now. This is dodgy, this story, isn't it?
It's got all the hallmarks of something that can be incredibly damaging to the government. They're at pains to say. The problem is that the government's defence on this one at the moment is... Excuse me. The
Harry Cole. There we go. He's just been on a plane, man. He's been so busy. That's aircon in first class. You don't get that in tourist.
Right.
How was first class?
I wasn't in first class. Business?
I'm
not in a position to discuss my modes of my travel. But
you speak to me.
Need to save the West. No, look, they're saying, oh, look, well, no ministers that were involved, no Jonathan Powell, the National Security Secretary, didn't have this very weird turn of phrase there, didn't have these substantive discussions. Well, then, fine, that means it was the PM, because someone did it. CPS said, we asked for the evidence, and it wasn't provided. And then they go, oh, well, of the Tories. I'm just my Jeremy Carl impression.
Oh, they do the Tories.
So they're saying it's the Tories. And then the Tories come back and say, well, no, hang on, we were bang up for prosecuting him, and we were ready, and we had this massive dossier of evidence, which we were going to turn over to the CPS. Unfortunately, we got kicked out by the voters there, so something changed. And look, the accusation hasn't really been denied that they put the interest of trade relations with China before our national security, and that is damning. I don't think there'll be a smoking gun letter where Keir Starmer goes, guys, let's collapse this trial to not offend the Chinese. So I think they'll be able to wriggle around it for a very long time.
He wouldn't have said it like that.
He wouldn't have done it. Yeah, he was not that stupid to put it in writing. There won't be a paper trail. There won't be a piece of birthday cake or whatever it is that gets it. But everyone can see what's happened here. Everyone can see what's happened here. And they'll say, oh, it was the Tories, they didn't go far. No. You guys collapse this.
How do they survive, Harry? It's daily. We're in embarrassment on the international stage. At home, it's just this mishmash of reactive panic. I mean, today, and I met him at the Reform Party conference. Young George Finch, 19, the Warwickshire council leader, attacked over the weekend by a man. He was out with a female companion having some dinner, attacked in the street. Farage saying today, Starmer's disgraceful rhetoric for the assault of Britain's youngest council leader. That's the reason. Where do you stand on this?
Well, stop calling people Nazis and stop calling people fascists. And the problem is, when you do that, you end up with a situation like Charlie Kirk about a month ago. Young man, a young passionate advocate for free speech, shot in the neck and by a crazed a crazed leftist. So look, if you go around calling everyone a racist and a fascist, well, firstly, I think you sort of diminish those terms because they're thrown around so liberally.
Absolutely,
but
right.
also you charge up the political rhetoric.
Now, the other reason that you've come back is very, very important. Nobody else has covered this. Today, and I freely admit, a massive heroine. In fact, I just met her son downstairs. Margaret Thatcher would have been 100 years of age today.
The centenary of Margaret Thatcher's birth, and her son, as you say, Mark Thatcher, was in the building. I've interviewed him. It's his first interview since 2009. He doesn't do interviews very often. He hasn't always been the biggest fan of the press, but he did make a very passionate defence of journalism and the free press today. Look, he's spoken out about his mother's legacy. Fascinating. You were there. You were also on the show to pick it all apart with us tonight.
Fascinating interview, Mark Thatcher.
His views on what his mother would have made of, the situation we're in the world, the economy, Brexit, the NHS, benefits bills, small boats, all of these things.
What would Thatcher have done with small boats? What would she have done? Because I said this to him, and I said it to you on air as well. There's a great thing, I don't know where it is because I'm no good at social media, but something popped up some weeks ago, and this was from 1983, so 42 years ago, and somebody asked a question. She did her perfect Thatcher, and she went, if the right honourable gentleman is saying that people should be able to come to this country to claim benefits with no intention of working and bringing their families and no intention of embracing our culture, he is advocating international chaos. And I looked and went, that was 42 years ago, love. You were spot on.
It's fascinating. What would Maggie have made of the world we're in today? And there's a great line where Sir Mark, without giving too much away, because you've got to subscribe to
10 o'clock tonight.
Harry Cole Saves the West. We watch it from 10 o'clock tonight. We might be a little bit out sooner, so subscribe on YouTube. You might get it sooner. But he said, look, the world my mother lived in is upside down now. We're through the looking glass, basically. So, no, really interesting chat. Very, very rare,
an exclusive, to be fair, and he's taking me for lunch.
And he's taking Jamie for lunch. I'm going to hot foot from here to...
Listen to this.
There's a massive...
First class from DC, a couple of television shows, deign me with his company, and then get whisked by a chauffeur-driven Bentley. Where are you going?
I'm going to get in a black cab.
Just going to get in a black cab. I'm doing my best, Al, come on!
The girl... tonight there's a massive celebration of Thatcher's life, her 100th birthday. Every living member of her cabinet who's still alive will be there. Whole lot of big names. So I will bring you everything from the red carpet tomorrow.
Good man.
I'm going to interview them there.
And you are then going back to DC.
And then I'm going back to DC.
He's a busy man, and he very good. So very, very quickly, are we an embarrassment on the international stage?
Well, I think we can pull our socks up somewhat, yeah.
Is Starmer of any influence really anymore?
I think he's played a good... look, I think Britain's influence on the Ukraine situation will remains solid. I do hope now, thankfully, we've got these hostages out, and as long as once we have a framework for how we rout Hamas, these people cannot be allowed to, just return to normality in Gaza. They have to leave. They must leave. Once that's sorted out, I do think attention does need to return to the situation.
I can also exclusively reveal that you asked him what his mother would have thought of Nigel Farage.
That was a fascinating moment.
That's interesting. That's tonight. Harry Cole Saves the West.
And I'll be back on Mike Graham in the morning to discuss it all as well.
Good man. Yeah. MG in the morning, JK in the afternoon. Here's the thing I'm going to say to you. I know that it's getting dark early. I know that people perhaps had a heavy weekend and it's 4:20 on a Monday and people are like, I'm really knackered. So I can give you the perfect pick-me-up. We're going to go to the break, peeps.